Hello, Cindy here. I'm excited to be here with you guys today, helping ladies around the world to attract and keep the kind of partnership that really resonates within their hearts. So I'm excited to talk about a pretty hot topic that I get asked about a lot, which is around long distance relationships. Do they work? Do they not work? What are the ins and outs? What are things to look for when it comes to long distance relationships? I could talk for an hour on this topic, but I'm not going to because I want you guys to get the insights. So here's the deal. The answer to this question is yes and no. Long distance relationships can absolutely work, and they don't always go very well in working. So let me just talk first about the components of a long distance relationship that does work. So, the number one component in a long distance relationship actually working is my 5-year-old wants in, so I get to figure this out. There's a little gap in time between school. Okay, Max. And we're talking about long distance relationships. Okay?
I need to rest.
Okay, why don't you rest over here?
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, you rest that way, and I'm going to close the door. So, back to long distance relationships. Sorry, you guys, for the brief interruption. Anyway, so here's the deal. The short story on this is, like I said, yes and no. There's approximately 3 million people that actually do long distance relationships, and I think that's the last research that I saw. So a lot of people do it, and some do it very successfully. So I'm going to tell you about the components of that. What I would invite you to do is ask yourself, what is my vision in relationship? So is my vision in relationship to have a long distance relationship where we get together on every other weekend, or, when we plan on it, or when we plan trips together? Is my vision that? Or is my vision to, eventually move next to each other? So there's nothing wrong with either one. You just want to make sure that you're aligned there. You want to make sure that you're both aligned. You also want to make sure, there's typically reasons why people get into long distance relationships and why they stay in long distance relationships long term. So I'm not saying this can't work, but there's a couple aspects that are missing, which is the live in flesh thing. There's certain emotional intimacy that's missing, that you cannot get unless you're together in person. So if you're in a situation where you're not spending a lot of time together and it's long distance, FaceTime's great, those kinds of things. There's also the sexual intimacy. If you're not spending that much time together, you want to obviously share an intimate connection, and as human beings, we're wired for that. So when it comes to, having that, how do you, where are you at with it? How do you feel? How's your partner? You want to make sure that you're both on the same page, and that you have that agreement together, and that you're making it fun. It's obviously spicy. And you also want to make sure, when it comes to your long distance relationship, how much time are you spending together? How much time have you spent together? Because if you're only spending a weekend here, a weekend there, it's hard to really see the full person unless you're spending a period of time with them. So I would also recommend, booking a longer trip together, allowing yourself to spend a few weeks together, because then you actually get to know, do you guys partner well? Are you okay with each other in the same space, right? So, are you guys aligned with a similar vision? And if you're saying, no, Cindy, I would really like to, eventually be together. I want to get married. I want to live in the same house. Well, obviously making sure your partner's on the same page and having a plan where, I think long distance can be okay for a year, maybe 2 years, depending on the circumstance. Obviously, if there's children involved, it can be a little more difficult to move. I know somebody that, is in a long distance relationship. They recently got engaged, but they had a plan. They had a plan. They both have children. She's moving across the country, and then she also has a business where she'll be going back to her home, once a month. That's across the country. So it's all about being on the same page, having those conversations, figuring it out together. Those are really important things when it comes to long distance. Now, the last component about long distance that's really important is trust. You absolutely must have a strong degree of trust for that person, because there's plenty of time where you're not together or you're not spending time together, that and not that you need to account for all that your time with your partner, because you could live in the same house with someone and the trust level may not be there. So you want to make sure that you feel safe and secure in the relationship, and you guys set it up to where you're accountable with one another. And, if you're having questions or your mind starts to wander, where's this guy, what's this guy doing? Is he cheating? Is he doing this, And sometimes that can be, an anxious attachment piece. And, there are ways to set yourself up for success, and asking, requesting certain things. Maybe it's that, you prefer that he reaches out to you every night, that you guys talk on the phone before you go to bed, or, you guys set something up. Obviously, this maybe can't happen every single night depending on the circumstances, right? So you just want to really make sure you have a deep level of trust. There's, you guys really do share a connection as far as a commitment to your vision in the future. There are some people that, live in different places forever. It's just, do you want that? I have a theory on that. My opinion is there's an emotional disconnection if you're living apart most of the time. And that feeds into emotional unavailability, which also will feed anxious attachment too. It doesn't typically, for most women, it doesn't typically give us the security that we want, need, and desire in partnership. So I just would invite you to really take a look. Is this partnership moving in that direction? And if you don't know, then I would invite you to have that conversation with the person you're in a long distance relationship with. And if you're afraid to have that conversation, then you want to take a look at, doing some deeper work around why, what you're afraid of, and why you're not having those deeper conversations that will actually bring you closer. And, are you afraid of the answer? So, and then, are you settling? Are you settling for something just to be in a relationship because it feels good, it feels comfortable, it's nice. And it can feel challenging and vulnerable to get yourself out there and date or date again. So, long distance, has pluses and minuses. I recommend for each and every one of you, ask yourself, why am I in a long distance relationship? Is this a pattern for me? Do I tend to get into long distance relationships? Why do I tend to do that? And do the deeper work. I recommend, hiring a coach, working with a therapist, but, therapy will take you back into how it feels. It doesn't necessarily move you forward into dating and relating differently. So feel free to DM me around this. I'm also hosting a series that you guys can opt into and watch, and I'll make sure that I post it on this page. It's called The Truth About Men, and it's all about communicating your wants, needs, and desires, understanding how to communicate effectively with men so that you actually get what you desire and are worthy of in partnership. So I hope this helps you guys today. Please let me know if you've been in a long distance relationship, and